Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Jumpstart, and this is the Jumpstart Video Productions podcast. And what we're going to do on this podcast is talk about all things video production. Whether you're a marketer or an advertiser or a creative at a company or at an advertising agency, or maybe you're working in media, maybe you're working at a television station, maybe you're a college student studying video production or graphic design or photography, and you believe you might want to go into the business of creating art for marketers and for advertisers, creating graphics for the web, creating images that sell, then this podcast is for you. And right now what we're going to do is talk about the world of video productions. We're going to talk about advertising. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about different roles in media. And when we come away from this podcast at the end, the summary will be who's responsible for maintaining the media assets, and what do you do when you get video work or creative work from a variety of channels that might conflict with each other. So there's some ethics involved in taking on work from agencies or from different sources, and there's a lot of what we might call etiquette to taking on assignments, taking on leads. And of course, we're going to get into a lot, and we're going to go all over the place, and it's a ton of fun to do. So here we go. Let's talk for a second first about getting work directly from an advertiser or a marketer. If you're a video production company like we are, you might take on clients who are, in fact, working for the brand, working for the company. It could be the owner, could be the entrepreneur, could be a small business owner that comes to you and says, I want to make a video for my business. It could be the vice president of marketing at a company that says, we would like to do a corporate overview video. So these situations are what we would refer to as direct relationships. And by direct, what we mean is the opposite of working for another agency or entity that is between the client and you, the creative person. And those situations would be working for an ad agency or a PR firm or a digital media consultant. And their client is the brand. Their client is the marketer. Their client is the advertiser, and you're the creative, you're the videographer or the video producer coming in to, in a sense, be a silent third-party plug-in, perhaps supplement their crew, perhaps be a branch of their agency so they can increase their capabilities. They're contracting the work out as an agency. So that is the opposite of direct. That is indirect. So you have another situation, and I have a ton of experience in this area because for a good part of my career, I worked for sales account executives. You might even call these folks advertising sales executives. Now, you have the cable companies, you have the TV stations, you have other media outlets, even the company that sells the video ads at the movies. When you go see the movies, there's the trailers for all the other movies that play before the movie, of course. There's 15 minutes of this. And you may have noticed now there's, and has been for more than a decade, they're running local ads. And what a great place to advertise, by the way. We're a video production company. We don't tell people where to advertise. We don't do media buys. We don't do the work that the sales account executives do, or the advertising agencies and PR firms and all these digital marketing people. They're brilliant. They come up with great marketing strategy. They tell you where you should run your video. We come in and make the video. That's our role here. But when you think about advertising in the movies, what a great place to advertise. If you're a restaurant, and your restaurant is located in the same general vicinity as the movie theater, and you're open till 1 a.m, what a great place to run an ad showing all of your hibachi grills cooking up really good stuff. And say, hey, after the movie, come over to our hibachi grill. We're right across the street from the movie theater. This is brilliant. But again, we don't tell people where to advertise or how. We just provide great video content for advertisers and marketers. So there's a lot of ways we get work, and there's a lot of, ethics, etiquette to how you interact with the different folks that you work with. For example, if you work for somebody selling advertising at a TV station or at the cable company, You as the video producer, and generally that's us as the video producer, we understand the etiquette. And that etiquette is, you do not go into the advertiser in the initial meeting about producing the television commercial and talk about what channels they should be on or how much they should spend on the media. This is between the account executive and the client. Our role is to come up with a really creative and effective ad on the given budget. It is also our role to work within the existing budget that was set. In a lot of cases, the budget is set by the client and by the sales account executive before we get there. For example, if the advertising account executive at the TV station went into the car dealership and worked it out with the manager of the car dealership that they're going to spend $10,000 running an ad and that they're going to budget $1,000 to produce the commercial to be run, we are not going to come in and say we would like to have a budget of $3,000 to produce the commercial. We understand that this has already been worked out. The budget has already been set. And this is a reason why a lot of account executives selling media, selling airtime, like working with Jumpstart Video Productions. We understand the etiquette. The other point of etiquette is we are not going to be in the business of buying media. We are a video production company. The only thing that we bill for is producing video. We don't make websites. We don't come up with marketing strategies for companies. We are a company that buys cameras, lights, lenses. We hire and recruit video producers and videographers and editors and graphic designers, and we have a roster of voice talent. Our role is to create great video. And the last thing we want to do is flip the business model on all of our clients and say, well, now we're an agency. Now we're in the business of buying the media. So the etiquette for us is when we come in, we understand we are not going to talk about what network or what channel the commercial is going to run on, unless the client brings it up and says, hey, we've bought HGTV, so therefore we want our commercial to have an appeal to people that watch HGTV. Then we take that information and run with it, but we don't come in and say, we think you should run on HGTV. That's not our role. And if we're working for an advertising agency, we understand we are the third-party plug-in. We downplay our brand. We downplay the name Jumpstart Video Productions. If we're working for XYZ agency, we come in and simply talk about the client's needs. We don't give out business cards. We don't give out our direct number. We work as an arm of the agency. And because of that, we certainly would not get into the business of buying the airtime and billing the client for the airtime, which is called media buying. We stay true to our core business, which is video production. There is a challenge in this, and there's some dancing around that would have to happen if a client came to us directly as the video production company and said, I really enjoyed working with you when you guys were working with XYZ agency, but this time around, we might just want to go to you directly. Now, there's a couple of problems here. Number one, you begin to wonder, well, what did this agency do that the client would like to go around them and go directly to the vendor? Us. Why would the client do that? It is possible that they're upset with the agency. Maybe they like the video work, but they didn't like the strategy the agency came up with. The etiquette here would be to reach out to your contacts at that ad agency and say, hey, your client who we worked with through you last year reached out to us directly, and we value our relationship with you, and we appreciate that you included us in the production last year. So out of respect for you, we would like to tell you what happened. Your client reached out to us directly. And did you drop that client? Was there a problem? And would there be an issue if we did this work going forward? I would rather just walk away from the work from one situation than violate a relationship with an agency executive, agency client that sends us a lot of work. And you really have to consider the ethics and the best practices. You really need to consider what's the right thing to do in these sorts of cases. Frankly, there are marketing issues for a video production company who works for TV stations or sales account executives at the cable company or for marketing firms, PR firms, and ad agencies. And that dilemma is, we cannot say in public some things that we might want to say. We can't say, and we shouldn't say, it would be best for all businesses to do it this way. It would be best for all businesses to go directly to a video production company. That's not the case. We have to respect the individual client's decision. If the individual client decides, for me, the best thing is to buy media directly from the TV station and then hire a video production company to produce the content, to produce the ad, then that's their choice. If the client says, I would like to have an advertising agency involved and let them handle everything, that's the client's choice. In our marketing material, we do not tell people the best thing to do is to have your video content produced by an independent video production company, and then you have the right to run it on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and buy any TV station or cable company you like, and we can manage all your video content for you. This is not something we want to say in public. We want to respect all the channels, and we want to respect an individual marketer or advertiser's desire and decision-making ability to choose on their own what method is best. I will say in this podcast, using an independent production company means that that marketer or that advertiser has total ownership of the media and the files. And that brings us to the point that we would want to conclude with. The summary of this discussion is, who's responsible for maintaining a collection of the media and the assets? And we say assets because when you create art for a business, you are creating something that has value. If you are a photographer and you take a picture of the car dealership, they can use that on their website. They can use it in the commercial. You have created a JPEG. There's the deliverable. But you have created an asset for the company. And how often do we encounter a situation where the marketer or the advertiser doesn't know where their assets are? How many of you in the website design or social media consulting business, social media marketers understand this? You get a new client and they have no idea who created their Facebook page, who created their YouTube, or maybe they know who created the Facebook and the YouTube, but they don't know the login and password. And I am not in the business of social media. We certainly have social media at Jumpstart Video Productions, but we are not in the business of advising clients how to do their social media. Again, this is the work of the marketing professionals and ad agencies that we work for and with. We don't want to trample into their territory. But how many of you in that business can think of a situation where the advertiser, your client, does not remember the password? They don't know how to get into their YouTube channel. They don't know how to get into their Facebook. Some of them may not know where the DNS information is or the domain registrar for their website. And I always tell people, this is like having a company van, but you can't find the title. This is a nearly identical situation. It's a great analogy. And in the comments, please tell me what a great analogy I've come up with here. Because the pictures, the video, the domain, the Facebook page, these are assets of the company, property of the brand, however you want to call it. How could somebody, as the marketer or the advertiser, not know where the collection of dealership pictures are? How could you not know where all your product shots are? This happens. It happens frequently when there is a change. A new employee comes in and an old employee left, and one employee's version of being organized is different from another employee's version of being organized. Different agencies have different workflows. So the reality is, it is very possible for the assets of the company to be disorganized. But what we want to conclude with, what we want to come to at the end of this discussion is who is responsible for maintaining the assets of the company, digital assets, your product shots, your logo, the style guide, videos that you have edited, the final versions of the videos, the raw footage. How often do we get a call? Hey, we want to go back to the raw footage and create another version of this video for some other use. By default, Jumpstart Video Productions saves everything. We have archives, and we have had some internal discussion about this, but we don't charge for this. If you come to Jumpstart Video Productions and you make a TV commercial for $1,000, we have it for years. We have actually gone back to, we're using Adobe Premiere now, but there was an era where we used Final Cut. And we have a machine in our shop that has Final Cut before Final Cut X. It would be maybe the last version of Final Cut before X. I don't remember what that was. Final Cut 7 maybe. And we maintain a Mac that is not upgraded. You cannot upgrade the operating system beyond a certain point, or this won't work anymore. So we maintain a version of Final Cut Pro. So if a client from 5 or 7 years ago needs to get back into something, this probably should not go on. This is probably embarrassing that I'm even admitting this in a podcast, but this does happen. But are we responsible for maintaining their media? We do it because we like to be the vendor you can count on to go back to your commercial you did 4 years ago, make one change, and be able to use that again. If you paid $1,000 to make a TV commercial, and you can then pick up the phone and call the company that made it and say, hey, we want to run that special again this year. It's the fall promotion. It's the holiday promotion. We just want to change the dates and update some of the prices. And we can do that for a couple $100. Clients love this. And so we just do it. But the reality is, who's responsible for maintaining all the media? What if our hard drives were to what if the hard drives crash? What if the office burns to the ground? Would every client we have come to us and say, well, I don't have my stuff anymore? We didn't really have it in writing. We didn't have an agreement. It's just understood. We're just doing this as our practice. But we're not charging the client a fee to store their media. They may or may not have a copy of it at their office, which is, by the way, an excellent idea for marketers or advertisers. Why wouldn't you maintain a hard drive at your office of all of your assets? Why wouldn't you ask your web developer or your creative services firm or your photographer if you can have copies of everything and maintain it on your own drives, your own storage space, whether that's on the cloud, on a Dropbox, or on a hard drive in your office, or a combination of, so you have backups. Why are we as creatives afraid of this? Are we afraid that if the client has all the pictures and all the video that they could leave us, that they wouldn't need us? Is there a legitimate fear there? What if the client decides to drop an agency? I know of cases where the agency has decided, and I'm not going to pass judgment or say this is unscrupulous, I'm just saying what my experience has been, that the agency might say, okay, well, our responsibility isn't to go through the archives and find every one of your files unless you pay us to do so. And you can see both sides of it. Let's say a client has retained an agency for several years, and over those years they've paid tens of thousands of dollars to have all this media created. And then over that period of time, that client trusted that agency to keep all that media backed up. And so when they would go on to the next project, everything would simply be there and be ready to go. Well, now the client has said, we're going to cut ties with the agency. And the agency says, well, the work of going through and getting all this media onto a drive is going to cost us some labor and some time. And since you're leaving us anyway and we're not real happy about it, we're going to charge you money, or we're simply not going to turn over the files. I know of cases where the agency or the marketing creative person wasn't happy that the client was leaving and decided to be slightly uncooperative and not provide any of the media to the client. And you hear these stories, and in every town that we operate in, every market has a number of clients and a number of agencies. We're all having fun. But the reality is, in a small fishbowl, behaving like this might not be a good idea. But I'm not here to lecture. I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm just saying that these situations happen. And it might not be the best practice. And certainly at Jumpstart Video Productions, our policy is if a client has paid us to create video, that video belongs to the client. And that client can have it at any time. And we have no issue with the client maintaining their own hard drive with all the raw footage. That might not be for everybody. That's just how we do things. The TV stations that create ads for free. As a video production company that charges money, initially you might say, well, certainly we would have an issue with a TV station creating an ad for free. But the reality is that ad isn't free. So if the local TV station is going to get an advertiser to spend $50,000 on a media buy, that TV station might be motivated to come out and produce the ad at no charge. But the reality is that the cost of production is built into the sale. In some cases, TV stations or cable companies will now bill to create the ad, and then the person selling that media for the TV station or cable company can receive a commission on that. So early in my career, I used to be on a special list that the cable company in town maintained. And that was a list of local videographers that would go out and do a really nice local commercial at a reasonable price. And there was a lot of trust there because the account executives would work on an account for months. The selling cycle from walking into the restaurant and meeting the owner to actually getting them to commit to spending money on airtime, that's a long time. That's a lot of work. Selling is not easy. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for everyone out there pounding the pavement and walking in places and cold calling and selling airtime. And if you as the video producer get the lead, and then your responsibility is to take that lead and go out and produce a nice commercial at a reasonable price to get that advertiser on the air because that account executive has been working on that account for months. You better come through with some nice creative at the price you promised. And that's what I did for a good part of my career. Had a blast. Jumpstart still does this today. The entire Jumpstart staff goes in, meets with an advertiser, does a great job, and a price agreed. It's all, really, frankly, it all flows very well. And so for that reason, Jumpstart Video Production we get a lot of leads from people in the TV world, and we appreciate it, but we understand this. And the reality is you cannot screw this up because they've been working on the sale for so long. But what I want to share here is that back in the day, the person selling the advertising for the cable company didn't get a commission. They got nothing out of it other than the commission they would get on the media buy. So giving the lead to an independent video production company required a lot of trust on their part, and you had to come through. And the more times you came through, the higher you got on the list. And there would be 10 or 15 account executives in an office, and they would talk. And they would say, Jumpstart went out and did a really nice commercial, and they really came through for me at the last minute. And the image and the reputation improves, and people talk, and then we get a lot of leads. And that's how it all got started. But in the world that we live in now, with all the cable companies combining, they got a little control over this, and they started to contract video production companies to go out and produce the commercials and then resell it at a slightly higher rate, and then they could offer the salespeople commission. And this is a fine practice. Either way, we're still doing great commercials for local advertisers. The reality is, the TV stations, when they come in and do free production, it's not really free. It's built into the cost of the media buy, or maybe they're also billing it out like the cable companies are doing now. But the TV stations use their voice talent, and sometimes it's union, or sometimes it's under contract, or sometimes it's the person working at the TV station that's a known personality. And for this reason and several others, there are times where if the TV station creates the ad for the advertiser, they cannot release it for air on other stations or on the cable company. Or if the advertiser says, hey, that's a great spot, can we use that on our Instagram and on our Facebook and on our YouTube channel or on our website? The answer is probably going to be no, because it was free production. It has the voiceover on it or the on-camera personality that's under contract through the TV station. And in some cases, that voice talent or on-air talent might need to be compensated separately for each use. If it's going to be on Facebook, it's going to be on social media use and release. Talent release is different than on-air talent release. So there's a variety of contractual issues here. So you can understand the TV station's position. If they've produced the ad for free and they've used their talent that they pay, they might want to restrict where the advertiser can use this media content. It is possible, as the advertiser, you might not even be able to retain a copy of it. Usually you can. You can have it in your media library, but you can't just upload it to YouTube. There's a lot of rules, and you really do need to be an ethical person. I'm not giving lectures here. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to pass judgment either. I'm just telling you what our practices are, where we come from. We want to be ethical. We want to play nice in the sandbox here. We want everybody to be happy. We recognize the value of what everybody brings to the table. And this is a good place to be. Not everybody's there, but we don't pass judgment. And the summary of this podcast is to be thinking through who is responsible for maintaining all of your company's media assets. If you hired a photographer and they went out and shot beautiful pictures of your business, the exterior of your corporate headquarters, maybe they did shots of your manufacturing equipment, and then they, of course, took it back to their place. They did the Photoshop work, they did Lightroom, and they provided you edited images. Those edited images may need to be resized for different uses, whether that be a trade show video or a big banner that you want to print or some other place on your website where a different size image is required. All you web designers and developers in the audience, you know this. And we all know this, perhaps, that the header picture might need to be long ways and horizontal, and the little thumbnail picture might need to be a 16:9 kind of ratio like video. You might want to have the raw files. You might want to have the files on the photographer's card right out of the card, what you'd call the Canon RAW or Nikon RAW, whatever the raw images are before they were photoshopped and cut down. You might want the originals. As a marketer, as an advertiser, we need to be thinking about these things. And whether you're using the TV station or an agency or a video production company like us, who has your files? Where's the title to your company van? It is extremely worthwhile to take a moment and get it all organized. It is also extremely worthwhile to be creating media assets throughout the year with a general plan in mind of, I know I'm going to need images and video for our marketing. Let's be creating it throughout the year. This has been the Jumpstart Video Productions podcast, where we've talked about media assets, and we really appreciate you listening. Going forward, I want to bring you podcast topics that are relevant, that are educational, that get the brain stirring on these topics related to video production for business. And the question of who's got your video assets, that's a good one. And I'm glad we had a moment to explore. Thank you for listening. Please find us on Facebook. Please find us on YouTube, youtube.com/jumpstartvideo. Now, there's a great YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening here on SoundCloud, or if you're listening on YouTube, you can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at Jumpstart Video. Our phone number, 330-376-1676. And our email, production@jumpstartvideo.com. We appreciate you listening, and certainly would love it if you checked out our website, of course, jumpstartvideo.com. Thank you and have a great day.